Yes, people, welcome back to Inside Boxing Brain. I wanted to jump on and do a reaction video to Joe Parker, Joe Joyce. The fight happened last night in Manchester, and wow, was it a good fight? Yes, it was. Jesus. I have not seen a heavyweight fight this competitive and this interesting for I'd say maybe a couple of years, since Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury 3 or Fury Wilder 3. This fight honestly lived up to all the expectations that we had beforehand. Both fighters came into the ring and they brought their best game, they brought it all, and they left everything in the ring as well. I have to say both men put up a 10 out of 10 performance. You could tell that they both came with the bit between their teeth. They did not want to lose this fight, and they both had great game plans. I'm going to do a breakdown and a reaction to what happened and how it both went, but we have to start by acknowledging the endurance, the chins, the heart of both men, and the determination that they brought into the ring. There was some real character in the ring last night, and you could really see both men putting it all on the line. I have to say that it was a statement win. It was an absolute statement win. Highlight knockout reel for Joe Joyce. Something that he can be really proud of, and you know, he can move forward now and use it as clout in the heavyweight division, because he knocked out a champion, a former champion, an ex-heavyweight champion of the world. And for a long time now, a lot of people at the upper echelons within the heavyweight division, the top tier fighters, have called Joe Joyce boring. They've called him slow, methodical, easily to predictable or easy to predict, and they've really talked down on his name. So I think it's about time we put some respect on that name, and Joe Joyce got the credibility and the applause and the notoriety that he actually deserves now, because it was an absolute statement finish. That left hook that he caught Joseph Parker with in the 11th round. Wow, what a shot. It almost came in slow motion. It looked slow as he was throwing it, but then as it hit Parker, you could tell it took almost a millisecond for it to register that this was it, and it rocked him to his boots. The way he fell down and all his body weight just fell on to the canvas. He had nothing left in the tank. You could tell that he'd left it all in the ring, and the better man had won. Breaking it down from the start to the finish, in the early stages when the fight began, I did think that Joseph Parker had a better opening round. He came out and immediately he threw a triple jab, and I was sat watching it, and I turned to the people that I was watching it with and I said, oh my God, this is Joseph Parker's fight. He's so fast with those triple jabs. He was moving his head, and he came out, took centering, and immediately fired those 3 jabs out, and he caught Joe Joyce straight away. And I thought, ooh, okay. In my prediction video, I predicted that Andy Lee would have come up with a game plan, and immediately I felt in the opening round that that game plan was working and it had been implemented, and I felt that Joseph Parker had really taken it on board, and over the last 2 fight camps that he's had, he'd made those adaptations and he'd changed, and this was going to be his fight. In the first round, I thought he looked sharp. He was using his upper body movement, and he did something which Emmanuel Stewart used to say: every heavyweight fighter within the first round of each fight should at least at one point in that round really stick it on their opponent, and hit them with the hardest punch that they've got. And towards the end of the first round, you saw Joseph Parker really stick it on Joe Joyce. And as they walked away at the end of the round, when the bell went, I actually felt that it was going to be a Parker win. I thought that my prediction was right, and that you know, Joseph Parker was going to run away with this because of his speed, ability to mix it up, throw triple jabs, double jabs, uppercuts, left hooks, and really stick it on Joe Joyce. So, you know, my initial reaction watching the first round was that, you know, my prediction was right and that Joseph Parker was going to run away with this fight. But boy, was I wrong. Because immediately as the bell went for the second round, you saw Joe Joyce come out and he completely changed the tempo and the pace of the fight. He started to push Parker back, and he was doing it with his rangy jab. And every time he threw that single jab, what he was doing is moving his head to the right hand side and trying to find distance and space to throw the right hand, the heavy right hand. And throughout the fight, what he was doing is continuously putting focus on the right hand so that, you know, Parker wouldn't see the left hook that he was trying to sneak in. And he tried in the 7th and 8th round to throw that left hook. Early on in the fight, he was almost doing it as a light punch, almost to just finish off a combination. And I think he was trying to lull or trick Parker into a sense of security that he wasn't going to put anything behind the left hook. So as the fight progressed, you could see him catching Parker with more and more big shots. I think it was in the 4th or the 5th round where he cut Parker with a jab. I think he caught him with a sharp jab followed by a right hand, but it was the jab that cut open the eye of Joseph Parker, and I did feel that the referee might stop the fight because of that, and it would have gone to points. And if that would have happened at that point, I would have called the fight a draw, because it was very 50-50. It was nip and tuck. Each fighter was having periods within the fight where they were doing well, but you could see that the pace that Joe Joyce was setting was starting to really get to Joe Parker, and towards the middle of the fight, he was visibly gassed, and it all came down to heart. And that's why I have to say that he is a massive heart. The Maori came to fight, he came for war, and he left it all in the ring on the night. But in the 6th or 7th round, you could see he was visibly fatigued, and when they went back to their corners at the end of the round, I thought there was some great, you know, cornermanship from both head trainers. But Andy Lee looked worried. He looked like his man was visibly shaken and that the pace was really getting to him. In the end, the way the fight ended, I think, came down to a combination of two things. And that was the power of Joe Joyce and his ability to absorb punishment, because he was getting caught with some flush left hooks, uppercuts, overhand rights, shots that he didn't see coming, and they were bouncing off his head. Nothing seems to hurt him. His ability to absorb damage and take punches whilst fighting on the front foot and still pushing his opponents back breaks their heart. And the main key to victory was that he broke Joseph Parker's heart in that fight. Joseph emptied the tank. He hit him with the kitchen sink, with the hardest punches that he knew how to throw, and they just bounced off Joe Joyce like they were nothing. And in the 11th round, when, you know, the fight ended, you could see that, you know, Joseph Parker just went through the gears. He just started switching it on. He was leaning on him, he was pushing him down, he was pushing him back. Fury-esque, if you ask me, very Tyson Fury-esque. And, you know, when that left hook landed in the end, and you saw Parker hit the canvas, you just knew that it was the end of the fight, and there was no way that, you know, Parker was going to get up from that and be able to last the rest of the round. Spectacular performance. You know, some key strengths for each fighter. I thought that Joseph Parker fought well in bursts. That was it. It was just in short spurts. He fought really well. He put his punches together, and he was digging to the body really hard. I think the game plan was to really wear down the body of Joe Joyce, but, you know, the Juggernaut just took the damage very, very well. Joe Joyce was consistent throughout the fight. you know, he remained calm. He didn't let anything visibly shake him. He almost looked like he was not out of third gear. And when he got into the fourth and the fifth gears, where you could really see him pushing the pace towards the end, it was just too much for Parker. So, you know, Joe Joyce just looked unfazed. Anything that Parker hit him with just bounced off his head. Didn't bother him. And yeah, it was just a spectacle to watch. An absolute spectacle to watch. I can't believe it. Again, I'm super proud of both men. It was a great fight, one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen all year. And I have to say that unfortunately the stock of Joseph Parker, even though he left it all in the ring and he showed warrior spirit, has really dropped. He's an ex-heavyweight champion of the world. And after being the champion, to lose to a fighter who is on the come up, it shows that it's going to be very difficult for Parker to find his peak performance ever again. And I think he's on the downhill trajectory. The downhill curve. Can't get my words out, guys. So Joe Joyce, for 37, I think he is, or 38, looks fresh. And I really think he is a future champion. He's now the mandatory for Alexander Usyk's WBO championship. So talking next steps, I think he's now going to push and beat the drum to get his chance to become heavyweight champion. And, you know, seeing him perform as he did last night makes me think that he could potentially beat an Usyk. Completely different traits to, say, someone like Anthony Joshua. I think Joe Joyce is a problem in the heavyweight division now, and not many champions are going to want to fight him. He's almost part of the Who Wants Him club. So, again, to recap, great performance by both men, an absolute statement win. That left hook to finish the fight was spectacular. Both men showed endurance. They both showed chin, heart, and true spirit. And, you know, as fans, we were lucky to see that fight because it was a spectacle. I wonder where, you know, Joseph Parker's going to go next. I don't see many fights for him. I think that he could potentially look to get a rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. because Andy Ruiz would always want to avenge that loss. And I know Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder are now in talks to fight, but irregardless of the outcome of that fight, I would still like to see Andy Ruiz and Joseph Parker get in there for a rematch. As we've mentioned, Joe Joyce's next steps are he's now the mandatory for Usyk's WBO title. Some other boxing news this week, there's been a lot of back and forth dialogue between Tyson Fury and predominantly Eddie Hearn. I do not think that fight is happening. You know, last night they said that they've got basically till Monday to make a decision, and Eddie Hearn has come out and said they're not going to make that decision by Monday. So it doesn't look like that's happening. Eddie Hearn has already got a lot on his hands, suing Jake Paul for defamation, after Jake Paul made some very serious allegations about corruption within matchroom sport. So the upper tier of the heavyweight division right now looks like it's just stagnant. So I would like to see Joe Joyce remain active and get back out there. Some good interesting fights for him. I think if he gets in there with someone like a Deontay Wilder, it's going to be a very, very fan-friendly, entertaining fight. We know Joe Joyce can take a punch, but can he take a punch off the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time? And we know that, you know, Deontay Wilder has got a massive heart, but has he got a heart big enough to overcome Joe Joyce after his defeats from Tyson Fury? So very interesting time. What a fight we saw last night in Manchester. And once again, massive congratulations to Joe Joyce, who is now the WBO mandatory. It's Inside Boxing Brain. Thank you for tuning into this video. Subscribe to my channel, and if you like the comment, leave a comment below. Or if you like the content, leave a comment below. I'll be back for another video next week. We've got some big fights coming up. Eubank Ben 3 is on the horizon, so I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Have a great day. It's Inside Boxing Brain, and we will be back very